Hi, everybody. Welcome. I just wanted to take some time to talk about people first language. So, thank you for joining me today. So, first of all, I kind of wanted to give you an outline about what our meeting will entail. We are going to first talk about, well, what is people first language? And then I want to give you some reasons about why we need to change our way that we are speaking. I'm going to give you some examples that we have in our building, and then I'm going to show you ways that we can replace those examples with some new phrases. And then I'm going to add in a few other ways like some helpful hints to you in case you are, maybe you're a parent of a child with disabilities and you have some information that you would like to share out to your family and friends, or maybe you want some other ways that you can talk to your students about the other kids in our building and making sure that everybody feels comfortable and knowledgeable about all of these things, and that we're learning to be respectful so nobody's feelings are being hurt. And then the very last, on my last slide, I am going to share with you the resources that I pulled this information from in case you want to dive in and do a little bit of your own research, or like I said, share it out with people who are around you. So I will be sharing this PowerPoint out with you in our Google Drive if you wanted to take a look at those resources later. Okay, so let's get started. First of all, what is person first language? Person first language puts the person before the disability. It works so that we emphasize the abilities and not the limitations that that person has. And then it also emphasizes the need for accessibility. So when we put that person first, we are truly acknowledging that person, and we are not defining them based off of what they can and cannot do. We are showing that the person that they are themselves is actually what's more important. It's the most important thing about them because they are a unique individual just like me and just like you. So why do we need to change the way that we are talking about people? When we are using that person first language, it shows the respect that we have, and it's also following the golden rule. I want you to talk about me the way that I'm going to talk about you. It shows that the words about a person have a powerful impact on that person. And so when we acknowledge that disability or that limitation before the person, we are showing them that that's what identifies them, and that's not true at all. But by putting that person first, again, we're just showing that that's the important part about the person, and that's the person that we really do care about. It also demonstrates good manners and respect. So as adults in our society, we have evolved in our thinking. We recognize the danger in using those slurs that could be related to ethnicity, religion, gender, and other characteristics. We need to take the same stance when we're talking about disabilities and take that mocking out of our vocabulary. So as adults, we've come to that conclusion full circle. Kids might not know that, and kids need to be taught the correct way and the respectful way to talk about their peers. We don't use medical diagnoses or slurs as insults, so why would we do the same with disabilities? So I want to give you some examples from our building, and this is not to dog on anybody. This doesn't mean like, oh, Mrs. Dusky heard you say this and this. No, I want to give you some real life examples because these are all children in our building, and I want to give you some real life examples about how we can flip the way that we are talking about them so that way they feel respected. So for instance, we have students who are in special education. We don't just say, oh yeah, she's a SPED kid. He's autistic. We don't refer to our other kids as normal or healthy kids. Joanne is wheelchair bound. Those are all real life examples of kiddos that we have here inside our building. So let's talk about how to change what we were saying and flip it to that person first language. She's a SPED kid. Let's flip that to, yes, she receives special education services. He's autistic. He has autism. Normal or healthy kiddos are our children without disabilities. Joanne is wheelchair bound. Joanne uses a wheelchair. A couple of other helpful hints I have for you. So when we are dealing with people who have a disability, you want to ask that person first if they need help before you rush in to help them, right? When you see an able-bodied person or people without disabilities and they drop their pencil, you don't just run over to them and pick it up from a room away, right? Or from like half a room away. You're going to want to check with them, hey, can I grab that for you? The person who has a disability might be more than capable of grabbing or doing whatever task they're having, okay? Or sometimes they might want some help, but it is always good to check first. A toilet or a parking space is not disabled. It is accessible toilet or accessible parking space. And then I want you to also be mindful of those invisible disabilities that are not always going to be right there in front of our faces. Each person is a unique individual, and when we see that diagnosis first, we're labeling that as the most important characteristic of the person. I'm not going to be labeled by my medical diagnosis. I'm not going to label my coworkers that way. I'm not going to label my students that way either. People with disabilities do make up our nation's largest minority group, which is roughly 61 million US adults. And then here again are my resources that are shared with you if you want to do some research of your own. Thank you so much for your time. And if you have any further questions, please reach out. We're all in this together, friends. Thank you.